So, this photo that you put up,
Yeah.
to me, is the very definition of namaste. The God of me acknowledges the God of you.
The usual gesture that goes with namaste is that one, but it certainly is expressing that thought.
But what does that mean? That Baba would bow to his companions? Because, you know,
Let's come to that when we get to the Kumbh Mela. He's going to be major talent bowing down to people. But I wanted just to read this out because it pertains to the 3 months, December, January, February. This is from one of the circulars where when asked, Yulu in particular, how he slept, he said that he could not sleep and added, "It is cold, cold, cold." Then Baba said, "We are neither young nor old. Our everything is sold, neither have we silver nor gold. There is new life, all told." And then Dr. Duncan added, "From 1st March it will unfold." Baba had been telling them through that whole period that it would really start in earnest on March 1st. And Baba added, "For those who are real bold, conditions 100% to hold." So how did you sleep last night? Was it cold?
Yes.
It was warmer than the previous night.
I had that impression too. But,
Yeah.
So this is the wandering period for these companions who, weren't accustomed to it. By the way, since this is the New Life circulars, the second of them, which didn't go up, get published until the 23rd of January, begins with the walk from Benares to Moradabad. The whole first part of the New Life never got included in the circular. And it's more or less based on Gandhi's diary. But at this juncture, the circulars start to come into the story. So I thought maybe it would be fun to read some from, pull it up. Yeah, I know from 12 Life. I forgot to open that. Let's see what that is. Where Erich describes the strike. I know a few, Sahaba program, study program, people get cold enough and want to protest against Meherana management for not supplying warmer weather to go on strike.
It'll be warmer by the end of the week.
Is that what it's predicted?
Sunday it'll get close to 100.
That's because,
Oh,
that's
okay.
because we threatened striking.
The threat of the strike caused Indra to say, it got to warm things up a little bit. Let me see. I opened this, but I mistakenly closed it again. Where does this start? I've forgotten what page. I think I marked it.
It's the introduction.
The New Life strike. Oh, I know, I marked it here. Let's see. Tales from the New Life, okay. Okay, page 112 or so of this. What page is this? This is the intro still. Here's Don't Let's Sing. There we go. So I think it kind of starts from yeah. Where would be the best point to start from? Oh, it's earlier than this, let's see. Okay, anyone feel like reading Eric's part out here? It's the first night after reaching Jaunpur. Here.
I'll do that for you.
Okay.
The first night after reaching Jaunpur, we slept in the open and it was terribly cold. It was in the month of December. Gustaji, poor fellow, couldn't get up in spite of being awake. He couldn't move his body, he was so stiff. In the morning, Baba was ready to greet his companions. There were standing orders that they should expect his wish to see them and keep ready in a group. But there was Gustaji lying down, unable to get up, and other old people too who couldn't move. And Dr. Ghani was one of them. When I went round to bring them to Baba, they started shouting at me, "Well, you have a fine time with the head of the group. All you do is just follow him. That's all. Do you know what work we have to do? That each one started on me? Then each one started on me. My own companions were accusing me of having a good time with Baba. I didn't say anything as I knew Baba was expecting the companions to come. I said, well, whatever it is, this is in our fate. We ought to accept it and the hardships. Oh, you can accept it because you don't go through all these things. Then I began to find out what had brought all this to a head. Dr. Nilu was out of sorts and had completely lost control of his mood. The pleasant mood that all were enjoying to keep. The reason for this was that when we had passed through the city where we would spend the night, he had had to pass by the Ostroy booth.
Octroy.
What is that? Ostroy booth.
That's where they charge a tax for bringing into the city certain kinds of items, and the animals were
Gotcha,
subject.
yeah. He had had to pass by the Ostroy booth, where the city tax on entrance is collected. He was carrying the calf on his back because it wouldn't walk the long distance. Being a strong person, it was easy at first for him to do this, but he got tired after carrying the calf for some miles. When he came to the Ostroy post, he was stopped by the people and asked for some taxes. We companions did not carry any money with us, so there was nothing for him to do but stop there, as the collectors wouldn't let him go further without paying the tax. He could not leave the calf there, and besides, there was also Patil and the cow in his charge. They explained the whole position to the tax collectors, but you know how harsh and rude they can be. They wouldn't accept their explanations. It was a nominal tax of 8 annas or so, but even that they didn't have. Finally, somebody took pity on them and paid the tax. The long delay and the humiliation were the cause of Dr. Nilu being out of sorts. He said, you don't know anything about our hardships. You go ahead with Baba. You stop when he stops and when the women want to stop. You and Baba and the women have a good time, and here are we, left behind with all this zoo. You have no idea of our hardships.
What kind of doctor was he?
Nilu?
Yeah,
I think general practitioner, anything special.
not an academic.
No.
MD.
Then Patil started to flare up. He
This is
said,
Sadashev Patel.
Patel. do you know what it has to be done when you want tea in the morning? For that, I have to get up early in the morning, milk the cow. It takes time, sir. How do you think you get your milk? And so forth. All that was pent up in their hearts. And what they wanted to complain about to Baba was blurted out to me.
I love the style of this.
Then Dr. Gandhi came and he said, what do you think, Erich? Being a sportsman, do you think it's fair for our companion, meaning Baba, to allow these old people to be dragged about like this? He says that he's our companion, and if he is, shouldn't he make allowances for the old people? Shouldn't he walk shorter distances? Should he not allow us to sit in carts and tongas? This camel cart is going about empty, and the caravan is absolutely unused except to give the women a nice salon to rest in at night. And there's a tonga there that carries nothing, where is it, but cooking utensils. So a camel cart, another cart, a tonga, and all these just going to waste. Can't he allow us to sit in these carts and tongas? It would be so easy then for all of us. All this time, as they presented their grievances, Baba was waiting for them to come. I tried to suggest that it was no help to have this mood now, and besides, I quite well understood their difficulties. But then they started talking about the problems of drawing water from the well. The whole party had to be supplied with water, including the camel and the horse and the cow and the asses and the bullocks. Then every evening we also had to go out and find fodder for the animals. All this was a burden on these people, while I had only to be by Baba's side. Naturally, the brunt of their complaints fell on me. Don says, you were the altar Baba. Erich, yes. Finally I said, it's not good to talk about it now. We'll think over the matter later. Come on. And then Duncan also flared up, saying, do you know how to handle this horse? He's not a horse, he's a devil. And so on. All right, I said, now let's go to Baba. It's time to keep a cheerful face, and let's go. So we went, and everything was all right. Baba just made a little fun of us, and that was all. Somehow the day passed off very well. In the presence of Baba, nothing was expressed, nothing exposed. Baba said that we would make a halt for 2 or 3 days in Jaipur, and then proceed further.
That's where they were at this point. They had come about 3 days from Benares. I don't know, 20, 30 miles, something like that.
I don't know why he planned this and told us about it just then. Maybe in order to help the companions, especially the older ones. Or perhaps he was marking time for something that was to follow. In any case, when after some time Baba went back to the woman's side for his lunch, and while we were having our time off, I found Dr. Gandhi trying to give a lecture to the companions. We find all sorts of parties giving lectures in Maidan, meaning open places.
I think that might have been where they were staying. There would be a Maidan, a sort of a open space in a town where you could have fairs or addresses or various kinds of events. And I think there was some kind of I may be mixing up places, but some kind of a structure where they could sleep. And I think something that the women, I think they were in a caravan actually.
Having salon.
Right, and they're a nice salon, yes.
We find all sorts of parties giving lectures in Maidans. Why can't our group here express their feelings? Baba said he is no longer the God-man for us, no more. No more the master, he's just a companion. And cannot a companion express his difficulties to his fellow companions? Why not? And the other said, of course, why can't we do that? If the new life means a life of companionship, why can't we express our difficulties? I said, yes, you can very well express your difficulties, but the trouble is we can't put on a long face in his presence. That's the order that comes in our way if we want to express our displeasure. Without breaking an order, I know one way out, Dr. Gandhi said. That is to go on strike. The next morning, when our boss comes, we will go on strike. He started calling Baba the boss. He asked if everyone would do that. Some hands were raised. Yes, we'll do that. Why not? Because we are so tired of this life, and how can we go on like this unless and until there is some help given to us? How long are we going to go on like this? Baba had said in the beginning, you recall, that it was going to be a new life without end. And we had set out in the conviction that we would not return to the old ways and places. The next day came, and it was all planned that nobody would approach Baba. Nobody if he were to clap for someone to come. They asked me what part I would play, and I said, all I can say is that I will have to be with Baba, and I don't agree with you people because I have no such difficulties. They said, you are a hypocrite. And again, they started to flare up. And it was all in good faith, mind you, and no hatred whatsoever. They were just giving vent to their feelings. The funny part happened on that day. Baba came as usual, of course, giving no sign that he knew of anything in the air. He was bound to do that because he was only our companion in the new life. He was in a jolly mood, but he didn't approach the companions. Keeping at a distance under the shade of a tree, we'll have a conference over here. Call all the companions, he told me. I went to them and they were watching me. You know how strikers are. You can visualize how they were. The boss had come, but they were determined not to go to him. Oh. Baba sat while I went and said to them, look here, Baba has come, and he wants you all because there's going to be a conference, a very important conference. They didn't say anything to me. I was an outcast. I kept quiet for a bit, and then I told them, this is not good. This won't look good. It's not the proper thing for us to do. Dr. Ghani can afford this because he is not only a companion of Baba, but a schoolmate as well. And you know what latitude Baba gives him. But not to others. One person hesitated and looked up, then another. I went to Baba and he said, what's the matter? Aren't they coming? I said, yes, they will be coming. Then Baba looked and said, what's the matter? Why are they standing here? Haven't you given them the order? I said, yes, Baba, they are coming. Baba probably knew that something was brewing, so he waited patiently. One after the other, they started to come, but Dr. Ghani wouldn't stir. How could he? He was the leader. He would lose face. Baba then sent word through me to Dr. Ghani. Whatever is in your mind, if you have got that daring, he told me to press these points, if you have got the daring, you should come and face the situation and open your heart to your companion. These were the same words that Dr. Ghani had used to influence the others, and now Baba was using them against him. Dr. Ghani flared up. What? I haven't got the daring? Of course I have the daring not to come and speak these things to my companion. Why shouldn't I do that? I have been telling just that to those people. So he came, and Baba said, what's the matter? instead of saying what the matter was, he accused those sitting there by saying, all these companions of ours are nothing but hypocrites, Baba. Baba said, why do you unilaterally describe them as hypocrites? What have they done? He said, what have they done? They promised me that they would not approach you today. They promised me that they would abide by our decision, that they would... Baba cut him short and said, but who are you to be promised anything by anybody? I was reading out Baba's gestures, but this annoyed Dr. Ghani. He said to me, you stop speaking now, I understand Baba's gestures. Why do you have to say these things? And in the midst of all that flare-up with Dr. Ghani, while Baba remained quiet, all the thoughts and feelings that those companions had had were completely forgotten, and Dr. Ghani was made the scapegoat. Then Baba said to Dr. Ghani, do you know that I am not only your companion, but I am also your schoolmate? Do you remember how we used to wrestle together? Would you want to wrestle now and settle the issue? That made Ghani laugh, and from then on it became a very friendly meeting and everything was forgotten. After that day, a great change took place. Nobody harbored any ill feelings. Nudges, what is that word? Oh, grudges, or anything of the sort. We were just as we had been at the start.
Okay, so
Wow.
that's the story. It's a fabulous story, isn't it? So here's a question. Dalat Singh was kicked out of the New Life for weeping at night when he thought no one was there. Dr. Ghani instigated a strike. Why wasn't he kicked out? I don't really have an answer, but...
I also see a tension. I also see a tension in the incident between the injunction to be honest,
Yeah.
and yet also be cheerful. And if you hide or suppress your feelings of weariness and anger at the condition, how can you present an honest cheerfulness when presenting yourself in the morning to Baba? So, you know, they're irreconcilable. It's a double bind again.
Uh-huh. Did you want to say something?
Well, Dalit was weeping because he was weeping. It was just personal and it was behind the scenes, as far as he could tell.
Yeah.
Whereas Ghani brought to the surface what was brewing for everybody and had a chance to create something that made it come to the surface and get dissipated.
Yeah, no, that's true. Dalit Singh's was a very personal thing. Actually, with Dalit Singh, there's a lot more to the story than came out in the book. For several days, the issue had been coming up with him, and he had asked Baba if he couldn't go back for 2 months. There really is more to that story. But Baba seems to have been dealing with a real conflict within the group. And so part of the question was, can you express your difficulties to Baba? And it sounds like that is allowable in the New Life, right? From this change.
No, they dumped on Erich, and then they all wussed out at the moment of confrontation. And Baba never had to hear the word strike, according to this.
Yeah, but in the various conversations, it does seem that the principle was admitted, whether or not they were doing that you can express difficulties to Baba.
I don't see it.
What do you all think? Is that allowable? The new, yeah.
Yeah, if we read down a little bit on this page, it says Erich replies to the statement by Dawn. Presumably Ghani was angry when he accused the other companions of having betrayed him. So he broke the rule, presumably, that Baba had laid down. But Erich replies, no, there was no anger. He simply said what had to be said with great emphasis, but there was no anger. So
This issue does come up on other occasions.
Yeah.
It seems like you can't even express feelings if anger isn't there. Now, it does begin to sound like,
Well, but if you read a little further down, he didn't like moodiness.
yeah,
And I think, if you were personally there, you'd be trying to decide if you were in a mood or if you were expressing a fact of what was happening without anger, blame.
yeah,
And certainly you didn't want to act like you were in a mood.
yes,
So you'd be wondering all the time how to express something that needed to be expressed the way Baba would like you to express it. I think it'd just be difficult.
yeah. Baba wasn't there when all the companions, Donkin was saying, flaring up about the horse, and all the others were flaring up. I mean, it sounds like that might have been some moodiness, I don't know. But anyway, this is a real important part of the new life as it's to be lived out in the future, is it not? When you have real conflicts, how do you talk about it and have it out without violating these conditions of no anger, no jealousy, all these other sorts of things? And so this is quite a dramatic moment in the new life. Yeah.
I think right there, it's in a certain way what we're sitting here for, right here in this room. You're reading about this, which is very understandable, and the kind of things that can come up in our lives in a certain way.
Yeah.
And
I mean, this kind of thing happens all the time.
yeah, I'm looking at the song of the new life, which it's extreme to think of getting in such a condition yourself completely, but I think that's why we're here, and what the new life song is for us when you're reading about this.
Yeah.
Just daily behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
The resolutions seem to proceed from Baba's use of deflection, not confrontation. And by reminding Ghani of how much shared experience they had, and then challenging him to wrestle off for whatever reason, but all of the resentments that as a group they were feeling for the conditions was never elaborated before Baba. I mean, he could not help but to know, being as sensitive as he was,
what was going on. Now, apparently after this, it doesn't come up in this account, but they did discuss all the issues, and Baba made a lot of accommodations and adjustments. So the problems did get dealt with after that. But it was that key moment where Baba, it was humor, actually,
Yeah, I marked that strongly, because for Ghani to suddenly laugh and he just had it broken. Baba was always
broke the
talking about
tension.
humor.
And Ghani had what it took to appreciate, the humor of it.
Yeah.
That goes back to what I cited yesterday about Bateson's proposition about double bind, that the resolution does not lie in the opposing terms, but in some kind of transcendent element that creatively resolves the conflict. So Baba, by deflecting with being the schoolyard bully, changed the subject, but that was sufficient to dissipate all the energy.
And humor was a key to it. The way back in the 90s, the Trust newsletter was inaugurated back then. I was the editor at that time, and one time I went to Erich just to ask for his comments on spiritual training, right, which seems relevant to this. And one of the things he says, don't forget about having a sense of humor. You know, that is often the key. And Erich himself was not a great one for telling jokes. He never told jokes. He didn't have that trait in him, but he certainly understood it and he certainly appreciated it. So right after this, they actually took a break for a couple days in Jaunpur, and I think it might have been in Jaunpur, Baba decided to sell off a bunch of the animals. Yeah. So this brings up another question about the new life. Okay, if I'm not a Baba lover, I'm a harsh critic of Meher Baba. Because we're going to have such people in the course of time. And I'll say, look at this new life. They did it for about 3 days. Then he sold it all off, you know. And it seems like that pattern, like they started the ghee business, and they ran up against a business difficulty that, you know, they were producing a product too expensive for the market, so they canceled the ghee business. Doesn't it look like Baba was just starting things and stopping them before they could ever really get going? So I've just attacked Baba. Do we have any defenders? Do we have any concepts? He couldn't stick to his purposes. That's my criticism.
That's saying that you don't know what the purpose was. No, the
What was
purpose was
that?
something beyond having that business go on forever.
It sure seems like that's true, yeah. So, let's delve into the avataric mind. What was his purpose? Not that I know, but why did he start things up and then stop them just after they got going? Now, he did bring it, the gypsy life didn't end there. They just sold off some of the animals, not all of them. So the problems continued. But some of them were gone. And by the end of a month, it was really, the gypsy life was over. He got rid of all these animals by the time he got to Meherana. I mean, sort of convince the world that he's really doing it proper. Shouldn't he have done it for 6 months or so? I'm just being devil's advocate here.
Well, didn't he, you know, when you look back over time, he's always changing things. Just like that, it's a big change.
Yeah.
And there's no necessary rhyme or reason to it. But then you're trying to apply our understanding
Right.
of reality to the reality that we can't comprehend that he sees.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like back in the time of the Meher Ashram and Prem Ashram, I mean, he started the school and had this tremendous outcome, effect that was produced, way beyond what anyone was imagining, where people were experiencing the upper planes of consciousness, and the school was going great guns. Then he shut it down. He went to the West in 1931 and 32. It was a very public trip. And he was a sensation everywhere. The news articles in the New York Times, the leading magazines of the period. He goes to Hollywood. All the greatest stars, you know, celebrate him. He's the new star on the scene. So what does he do? He says, well, I'm going to break my silence in the Hollywood Bowl. Takes off for China and sends back a telegram saying, time isn't right for this yet. I mean, he obviously, any fool would know that if you do that, you're just going to have everyone say he's a phony. So he turned it off. right at the moment where he could have made it big time in the world of celebrities. So this was a consistent pattern of Baba's.
He seemed to invest energy in these projects and then, like turning over an electric motor, it takes
Yeah.
a lot of current to break the inertia.
Yeah,
And then once the motor's running, it takes very little current
turn it off.
to turn, and so.
Or to keep going from
To
that
keep going,
point,
yes. So there seems to be like a pulse.
Yeah.
So the ashram schools were a pulse. The excitement about the master breaking his silence
Yeah.
was a pulse. It made everybody aware that there's a silent guru who's going to have this event. Everybody shows up, but there's no
Sure.
party.
And like for the Hollywood thing or this, he did the work of somehow or another becoming a celebrity. You know, everybody wants to be a celebrity and very few succeed. But he got in newspapers all over the West. He was a smash hit. And from that point, he turned it off. Yeah, it's like Baba did in all these cases the hard work of getting the engine going. In this case, he did too. I mean, he got this whole gypsy life going and he dealt with a major conflict among the people concerned. So it's not like he avoided the hard part. It's like he avoided the payoff. You know, if they had done this for 6 months, they would have learned how to deal with animals and, you know, all sorts of stuff. But he just got to the point where they were really engaged, like with the donkeys, for example. They couldn't get the donkeys to walk, but they learned how to do it. You go behind them and you put the load on them. So at that point, it's like his purpose was fulfilled and he ended it. He closed down Meherana in 1926. Everything was, the ashram was going, the hospital was going, the leper asylum was going. He had all these relations going with the villagers. Lots of people were showing up for his darshan. He was becoming a famed master. What does he do? He closes down Meherana. But he did the hard work of getting all these things started. So, I mean, it looks like archetypal work on the avatar's part. Yeah, what do you, Brian?
The archetypal work, and then, I mean, you know, it's absurd to say you have to do it for 6 months or something.
Right.
He has to do it in his time, and then it's done.
Right.
So who cares what outward thoughts are about it? It's the archetypal work is done, and then on to the next one.
That sure is what it looks like, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that was always his pattern.
We, of course, have no way of understanding his intention. But it's almost like joining Baba is like going on a cruise. The point is not the destination of the voyage, but to be within the journey, so that these efforts of Baba's, the objective that we see of intention is a resolution and some accomplishment, but for Baba the objective was some other ineffable purpose, and we surf that wave, that pulse of his intention without really having an understanding of a destination, a product.
Yeah, did you want to say something?
Yeah, that, you know, if Baba, the process, not the result. You know, the outward result. And to the point of building buildings and having them torn down like a day later. So, but also I think that can apply to how we work with Baba too. That it's not that the focus, you want a positive end result, but the focus should be on the process.
Yeah. So it was during this whole period that Baba really got begging. He continued with the begging. He started it in Benares. Any of you remember any of these stories of begging in the villages? Some of these are very beautiful, actually. They would, these were really poor villages. We don't even have them.
Well, where someone would say, wait, and she goes to a neighbor to get the food?
Yeah, because she didn't even have any in her own cupboards, if she had cupboards. But she said, yeah, and she came back having begged food from her neighbors and gave it to Baba. Things like that happening. Or else, they'd approach a house and the woman would come and she would give what was obviously the meal being made for her own family. When, it's not like they had extra or anything like that. So these beautiful, touching stories of these poor, simple people who kept responding to their begging. It does bring to mind, again, for the new life in the future, how practical is this? I mean, there are these cases of spectacular offerings coming forward. I think it was in Najibabad, where Adi was trying to find someone who would supply food for several days. And he went to various places, and then his Tonga driver said, "What are you looking for anyway?" And he said, "Well, for someone who will give food." And he said, "Well, you should have asked me. I know just the guy to go to." So they went to this man, and he said, "Yeah, sure, I'm happy to give you your party food for a few days, but I can't supply you with a place to stay." So then Adi had to find that out, and he also had to find someone who would give train tickets. We mentioned this the other day. So you have these amazing cases, but if the new life is going to be lived in the future, it's like that's not a working plan. What do you think, Brian, that works every day of the week?
Well, clearly it seems clearly that the final result or the goal says, in fact, the foundations are, some of the early activities. It's hopelessness and helplessness.
Yeah.
So it's not your outward, what you do so much, it's your inner state that you get to. So, and to me, then I take the new life as, working on getting to that inner state.
Yeah.
And the outward stuff is just outward.
And these are cases where, they were trying to get to that inner state, and in an amazing way, people came through and supplied them with what they needed. I'm sure this is archetypal too. Yeah.
So it seems though that Baba's saying be generous in my name. Also, it's not just an inner thing, he's saying give like these people do. They are the ones that are warm in my heart and bringing me happiness.
Yeah, this would be a message to posterity also, wouldn't it? That is when humanity becomes more attuned to Baba and what he wants, when people are trying to live the new life, support them. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but in our culture that just seems so fraught with difficulty.
Yeah, I know, it's hard to see it working at the present moment. Baba did say the new life can be lived in the West as well as the East. It's hard to see it working at the moment, but on the other hand, who has tried?
Okay.
No, who has tried?
Huh?
Who has tried?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking, how much of that is just my selfishness that thinks it won't work.
Yeah. I mean, who has tried in the sense of like doing the begging life? Or the gypsy life, yeah.
It reminds me of that period of time that was very short in our history and in the West, where many young people during the hippie days or whatever
Yeah.
you call it were searching for a guru, one way or another,
Yeah.
finding false ones, finding real, but they were living the new life in the sense they abandoned money, they traveled to India on foot, they could buy
Yeah.
breakfast. Some of them found Baba because of that sort of new life way of being that had to do with getting rid of all your possessions and traveling overland and,
Yeah.
going to overland and so on. Some came to Baba, others found different gurus, etc.
In fact, at the very time that Don Stevens was interviewing Erich on these subjects, that very thing was going on. And the subject came up. Don brought up to Erich the whole hippie movement. And one point that Erich did make was, one difference that I see, this is what Erich said, is that a lot of the people who are, becoming hippies do so out of a rejection of the world and a rejection of their present environment. But for us, it wasn't that at all. There's no matter of that. Well, there wasn't that negative part to it. They were just taking on this new life for its own sake. So that's an interesting, because there was a really big counterculture side to it back in those days. Yeah. Yeah, Linda? Microphone?
Sometimes a new life happens to you.
Mm-hmm.
I had spent a couple years building my little dream home, and as soon as it was done and as soon as I moved in, I ended up couldn't pay the mortgage and I had to sell it right away. And I was very conscious at the time of, thank you, Baba. I mean, it was hard to go through it. I had to get rid of half of my possessions, and very happily came through the other side of that.
In fact, it almost, when Baba talked about Satyanashi, that's not something that you voluntarily undertake. It's a disaster that overcomes you. So maybe the new life will just overcome a lot of people. And when it's happened, certain people will understand to live the new life in that circumstance. Or else they'll just start doing it because they'll discover the truth of it. All of that could be. Now another other stuff that started to happen around the same period was Baba, he got rid of some of the animals, not the white horse, but some of them he sold off. But they were having a real problem where they needed more money. So this was the time where Baba asked if they would give up their 1,000 rupees that had been set aside for each person, and if that would become a common fund. And everyone agreed to do that. So at that point, they had no money at all, except for the collective fund. So if they had to leave the new life, they had nothing to start with. So there's another renunciation that happened. Also, Baba wanted somebody to take over management of the food. I guess Baba was sick of the complaints. Or I don't know if they were complaining or not, but there's never any mention that they were complaining, but I guess they were, or maybe their expressions showed it. And he had, it was somebody take over becoming a manager of the food. And finally Gandhi stepped up and said, I'll do it if everyone cooperates. So then there was a vote, and 9 voted yes and 7 voted no, and Baba said, no, that's not good enough. And then Donkin suggested, well, let's have a committee He had like 5 people on this committee, and that didn't win the approval of the group either. So finally Bob said, okay, I'm gonna go on doing this, but don't you complain anymore. Whatever happens, just put up with it. So it seems, I don't know what the food issue was exactly, they were begging, but maybe there wasn't enough of it, or maybe, does anybody have any ideas about that? I mean, you can well imagine, you know, they were hungry a lot. We talked about these certain cases where they had, you know, huge amounts given to them, but there are a lot of times where they didn't, and they're slim pickings. And here's again a map of the what we're talking about. Oh, yeah, this shows it. You know, they started here, and they went to Jaunpur, and I guess they went right through Lucknow. Oh, no. What they did is they took a train from Jaunpur. So I don't know what, this is maybe 30 miles or something, Benares to Jaunpur. And they took a train to Moradabad. I think the whole distance might have been 650 miles or something like that to Dehradun. So at this point, they were really getting up into North India. See, these are the mountains right there. And it was late December, so it was getting very cold. Does anybody recall the episode with the clothing that came suddenly? It was really, in fact, I think, was it Moradabad? One of these places that when they got there, that night there was a big heavy rainfall. So they were in really, it was quite cold. You know, it freezes up there in winter. And they had sold off a bunch of their clothing at one point to get some money. So they really didn't have warm clothing at all. So they were in a bad way at that point. And it so happened, now we're going to start getting into the story of some of the people in North India. One of them was Harjawan Lal, that's his name. And Kishan Singh is another. And Keki Desai was a real important player in this. And Keki Nalabala. These are going to be people who came into association with Baba and played a big role. But Harjawan Lal had met with Adi, I think when Adi was trying to find accommodation up in Moradabad, and found out what the state of the party was. And on his own, he spent 2,000 rupees on clothing for the whole group. And got in touch with Baba about this, and Baba agreed to accept it if it was brought not by Harjawan Lal himself, by one of his employee. So when they were in Moradabad, all the clothing was like these. They have what they call monkey caps. It's a certain kind of cap they wear, and woolen coats and stuff like that. And it was brought by his employee, but his son came along also. His name is Inder Singh. And he was, I don't know, 14 years old or something. And when Baba saw this, he was very displeased that his instruction had been disregarded. And it got, you know, and Inder Singh fell unconscious right then and there and bashed his head on the ground on a rock. They were afraid he cracked his skull, as a matter of fact. Later on, Inder Singh said he saw this brilliant light of 1,000 suns. He had some kind of an experience that went on. But when he recovered, Baba accepted all the clothing, so this was absolutely a godsend. Just at the critical moment where they were really getting into trouble with the cold. And this Indersane is, I wish somebody in England would get in touch with him. I think he's still there. Yeah, there's a lot connected with him. Does anybody know anything about Indersane?
No, but I'm wondering, were the Mandali accepting the clothes? I mean, seeing them and wanting them? Is that what Baba was angry about, or angry only at Anderson?
Well, the Mandali hadn't expressed anything, so he wouldn't have had any.
But were they seeing it, and he brought it right to them and said, here you go?
You know, I'm not remembering exactly who Indersane met. I don't think most of the Mandali would have known anything about it.
Okay.
But finally, Baba expressed appreciation for all of it and sent the message, okay, Harja Manlal, we're very grateful, but don't try to see me again, or don't try to make contact again. But the Mandali could see that Baba was indifferent to the whole thing. So what is that about? It's not brotherly feeling now, is it? But anyway, it was, I mean, Eric said this was absolutely a godsend at a time where they most needed all of this. So this was quite a memorable episode. And they wound up going in a caravan again up to Najibabad, which is right there. See? So that's a fair distance. And at that point, in fact, when Adi was played a big role in finding places for them to stay and making food arrangements. And in Najibabad, he went with Ghani and Baba Das. And Ghani started having heart problems again. And Baba Das had acute sciatica, so both of them are completely incapacitated. And Kakabaria was also in kind of bad health too. So from there, they took the train up to Dehradun. And the journey was there completed. And another thing in Moradabad was that actually, in Moradabad, Baba said, we're going to have a vacuum period. In fact, he had said that from the very beginning, I think back in Belgaum. He said the last 10 days will be a vacuum period where we take time off from this gypsy life, and they actually bought food from restaurants during this period. He gave a message about it. It's in the book somewhere. I've forgotten exactly where it is. I can find it easily when I'm working with the book, but when I have these notes. Let's see. Yeah, it might be here. He gave this message, it's kind of a... Here. Okay, he said... Anyway, I'm not immediately finding the message, but Baba said something like, I have heard that after a person dies, for 3 or 4 days, you retain a connection with your physical body. And I always think it's so funny because Baba's saying, I've heard this, when he was the one who said it, But at this time in his life, he didn't know it anymore from direct knowledge. But he said the vacuum period will be like that. Will be a certain term where we're taking time off, and this is the death of the old life, because on the 1st, the new life is going to start in real earnest. There's going to be no more accommodations made for people's weaknesses and failings. It's the real thing. And so,
No more strikes?
No more strikes. I would presume at that point, if you, yeah. Okay, here's the vacuum period. In fact, this might be the message right here. Anyway, oh yeah, another thing that happened during this time in Moradabad was that they tried to get the white horse trained by an expert horse trainer. Any of you remember that story?
The horse was a gentleman who'd been trained before but was pretending.
He was pretending not to have been, yeah. And this horse trainer was a real master. And he told Mani and Mera that who were watching. And to illustrate it, he had the horse running around in a circle and he suddenly gave it an order. And the horse started to obey the order, and then stopped as though. So he said, see, the horse knows all of this stuff already. Actually, when they got back in Benares, when Dr. Nath was bringing horses, 2 horses were presented for their consideration. Any of you remember that episode there?
You mean in the beginning or again, 2 horses?
This is in Benares when Nath was trying to provide a white horse for Baba.
One was supposed to be perfect with the white eyelashes and everything, and then there was a lesser horse. And all I remember is that Mera chose the lesser horse, and she knew it was the lesser horse in the sense of his.
She said
plan.
about the one horse, it's a beautiful horse, Baba, but it's a bit spirited.
Well, and then they got this guy.
Then they got the spirited horse.
She left the decision up to Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess all the men liked that one horse because it was quite a spectacular horse, more impressive looking. But Mera warned. Mera knew horses from earlier in her life, where she had given it. And when they got the horse, there was a story where Mera and Mani were, grooming it and feeding it. And after, I've never worked with horses, have any of you? Give it a nose bag? Yeah. Do they still do that, a nose bag? Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to give it a small but quality feed, like oats or something, then you put it in a bag, otherwise the horse will browse on whatever's available.
I see. So I think they had given it some food, but then the horse began to look unfriendly. It was turning around with its back to them, and that's a sign he wants to kick you. So at that point, Mera understood, said, get out of the way, and this horse probably doesn't like women. So when Baba came, the horse started behaving in a very unfriendly way also. So they already had the sign that this was a troubled horse. And they had nothing but difficulty the entire trip. They couldn't get it to pull any kind of a load. And you saw the problems that Gandhi was talking about. Why can't these animals help us a little bit? The horse.
Rideable?
I never heard that anyone tried to ride it. Does anyone remember anything otherwise about this? Yeah. I mean, this white horse thing sure sounds symbolic to me. I mean, we have the white horse avatar.
Well, what about the symbolism of the horse that Baba said, the perfect white horse, was not chosen?
Well, the other horse, it's not the other horse was perfect. It was, I think, smaller and more docile, and maybe a bit older. The one they picked was a much more impressive horse.
Well, I thought that maybe I have a feeling that they did not pick the horse with the white eyelashes and
I guess I'd have to look at it again. I thought this horse was quite perfect in this way.
The stunning horse they left behind and picked the lesser stunning horse.
No, I think the horse they picked was the more impressive one.
Okay.
But Mera liked the other because she thought it would be more cooperative.
And Baba chose it.
Baba made
as
it.
God, he knew what was coming.
Well, if this white horse was nothing but trouble, What would you say about our white horse? Sometimes he's nothing but trouble also, yeah.
So in magic, in some spiritual practices, an artifice, an image, a representative of the objective is manipulated to project the power that is being, or influence that is being expressed. To what degree can we attribute that aspect to the whole new life as a symbolic representation, so that perhaps the understanding of the unbreakable, unpleasant animal is an exemplar of some other force, some other dynamic that would have consequence in a symbolic way for some ultimate purpose.
Yeah, I would certainly think that's all true. Probably with all of these animals, there's that aspect of Baba, universal work being done through them and through their... The one that was the most willfully difficult was the horse. I don't think the other animals created those kinds of problems.
But the asses were ritually impure, so therefore there was a problem with that, was it?
No, and then the camel ran riot once, on one occasion. And the cow was in trouble because it wouldn't walk without the calf. So really, I don't think the two English bulls created a problem at this stage.
Say that they were English.
They're English, right? Which came up later. But they were, but in general, the animals were a lot of trouble. And again, they weren't, I mean, these people weren't, experts in this. They weren't from the farming part of life in India. But this is the end of the vacuum period, and Baba had a message. Today is the last day of the 2.5 months period of promised help. I ask, most merciful God, for forgiveness for myself and my companions, for any conscious or unconscious mistakes, large or small, committed by me or my companions towards each other, or toward the spirit of the conditions of the new life, right? Towards each other or towards the spirit of the conditions. It comes up again. And the oath pertaining thereto during these 2.5 months. Again, this asking for forgiveness comes up time and again in these prayers and oaths of Baba's. I forgive my companions wholeheartedly for any misbehavior toward me, and ask my companions to wholeheartedly pardon me for any ill treatment I might have given them. I ask all-powerful God, again it's to Almighty God, it's always that transcendent God we praise to give us strength to live the new life 100% according to the conditions and the oaths of the new life, which begins from tomorrow, the 1st of January, 1950. And then at the conclusion of the prayer, Baba said, after full consideration and keeping well in sight the conditions of the new life and our oaths, I have decided that without promising anything, I will try to overlook unconscious mistakes, large or small, but I will never condone any small or large mistakes consciously committed. Now, it seems like later on, Baba is dissatisfied with his own performance on the new life for having given accommodations like this. Like he wasn't upholding his own oath as he should have. I will not forgive any mistake that goes radically against the spirit of the conditions, and under no circumstances will there be any compromise. I will be brother and friend in every respect, except in absolute obedience to my orders. We who stick to the conditions 100% sink or swim together. So this, at this point, New Life began in real earnest, and the whole crew set off again. And there are lots of good, memorable stories over the next week or so. But finally, when they got to Najibabad, they took a train to Dehradun, and there the next phase of the New Life begins. So why don't we take a 10-minute break and resume with that. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, see, that's it.
So now we're moving into the Dehradun part of the story, where Baba was established in North India. And he was either in Manjri Mafi, which is a couple miles from the center of town in Dehradun, or else he was in the town of Motachur, which is close to Hardwar, which is on the river Ganges. Dehradun is not. And these are two of the big players. Come on. This is Keki Desai, and this is Keki. Baba renamed him Keka. Although I hear that people who met him always called him Keki. Did somebody, you never met him? Anyone ever meet him?
I think I may have met him, but I don't remember what
Yeah.
he called him.
Yeah. Anyway, he got the name Keka, so as to differentiate them.
He was really young.
Yeah. Keki Desai's daughter is alive, and she's married to Rustam Falahati. Do you know Rustam Falahati?
Yes.
You know those booklets that he wrote? And they live in Bombay. I don't know when he died, but he was the one, I think Keki Nelawala heard of Baba from Keki Desai. Anyone remember the story of how this property in Manjri Mafi came to Baba? Recall that? The story actually goes back to before the New Life began, when Baba had announced it. But Baba had the idea already that they would make their way up to Dehradun. And he called Keki Desai and described, property he would like to have. He wanted them to actually own the property. And I think he had a month to get it. I think there's supposed to be like 5 acres of property and a well and other things like that. And so Keki said, can I get help from my friend, Keki Nalawala? And Baba said, okay, but you can't tell anybody else what's going on. So a month went by and they hadn't found anything at all. Anyone remember the story from this point? No, it's neat. And Baba sent a telegram saying, if you can't find suitable property in 24 hours, the deal is canceled and I'm not coming there. And Keki was really upset. But at the end of the telegram, Baba gave him a hint. He said, it's about 4 miles out of Dehradun, in the direction of Haridwar, but not on the main road. Ask the first man who you meet. Baba actually told him all of that. So Keki Desai had a friend, Balakram, who knew the area. I suppose he didn't tell Balakram about Baba. It doesn't mention about that. But they had reached Manjri Mafi, it's a little town on the edge of they were doing. And Balakram remembered that he knew Kumar, Shatrugna Kumar, and went to his house, and he was on his porch smoking a cigar. And so they went, after introductions, they said, we're looking to buy about 5 acres of property. And Kumar said, yeah, I could do that. He said, well, it needs to be a house. And he said, okay. And there needs to be a well. And he said, sure, do that. And also I need to seal the deal within 24 hours. And Kumar said, well, I could do it within 2 hours. And Kumar had never heard of Baba before, had no connection with Baba. So right away, but when the telegram Baba said to Kiki Desai, come down immediately. So he got on the train, and Baba approved the whole thing. So Kumar had no idea who Baba was.
But Baba knew that he was the one.
And he had a deep connection with Baba, as it turned out. He became one of Baba's real disciples. Yeah. Any of you know the story about his revolutionary activities, Kumar's activities?
Yeah.
Right. Someone want to tell that story a little bit? Fred? No.
Well, what I remember is that he had been imprisoned. Let's see, no, I have to go back before that. Yeah, well, it was, I can cut to the chase, that's about it, because he said, and he was in prison for quite a while, I mean, for like a year or two. I mean,
I'm not sure how long.
I don't know how long it was, but he was getting really rested in prison.
And he was in prison. He was regarded as one of the agitators. And they put him up right by the roof where the sun was beating on was it a tin roof? Is that one roof?
Yeah.
And they put him down in this deep cellar, and he thought they were going to kill him and he was never going to get out.
So he had become an atheist, but at this point he was getting desperate. So he had this prayer to Mr. God.
Yeah.
If I can be released within 24 hours, then I will believe in you.
Yeah. And accept any bondage you put on me for the rest of my life. Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, it was even shorter than 24 hours.
A certain time in the morning.
Yeah. I have to get out by tomorrow morning at 5.
5 a.m. 5
Which is before anything opens up. And then he was thinking about it afterwards, and after making the prayer, said, well, what if I do get out of prison? How will I know it's God who did it? At that point he said, it has to be 5 in the morning before the prison opens. So it had all these conditions, yeah.
Was this at the fort in Ahmednagar where they kept all of the...
No, this was up north somewhere. I'm not sure which prison it was in.
So then the way it developed is that,
Yeah.
that at 5:05 in the morning, he hears somebody walking down the hall and keys jingling, and the jailer comes and opens the door.
Right? Says, you're out. So this was 1945. This was 4 years before this. So that was a huge transformation. I don't know what I presume he was engaged in revolutionary activity against the British. Because, there was a lot of that going on.
Sure.
Not everybody was a Gandhian nonviolence advocate, so I don't know what he did, but he was, I think, kind of a wild man, is my impression.
Yeah, the Germans organized the whole Hindu Fry division that fought with the Japanese.
There were several others, like Pukar we're going to run into, was also an anti-British agitator, although I don't think he had been put in prison. So, anyone remember the sequel? I think it's 1954. Baba. Because he did not take kindly to being ordered around. Kumar, yeah, it wasn't his style at all. So, when Baba began cracking the whip on him, it's like, what's going on? And I don't think he accepted Baba as God right off the bat. But after the new life, the story, somehow it came up that he had been in prison and with Baba, and he said, yes, I made a prayer to God. And Baba said, oh, is that all? And he said, well, no, I promised that I would accept whatever bondage God puts on me for the rest of my life. And Baba said, I've kept my promise, that you keep yours. And it was at that point, I think it was stunning. He realized then this was God. The Mr. God he was praying to was Baba. So this is one of Baba's really great disciples who came into the picture this way.
It does say here he was imprisoned at Bareilly Detention Camp in Uttar Pradesh.
Okay,
His second prison term.
okay. So Uttar Pradesh is up in that same area where, up in the north, yeah, second prison term. So I think they were able to tell him, the Kekis, who Baba was. They knew that much. He knew that much. But they were very reluctant to tell him much of anything about Baba. But gradually it began to come out. So you remember the stories when Baba arrived at the train station at Dehradun? There's quite a lot happened on that very arrival. When I think they didn't even bring in Kumar. In fact, I don't think they even, I'm forgetting now, but they may not even have gone to meet Baba. Someone did, or Baba said, okay, bring them all, we'll meet in one of the waiting rooms. And Baba met Kumar, and Kumar was immediately deeply impressed. And Baba said, but what are we going to have for lunch? Nothing like that had been brought up. Right? Yeah.
They brought food, the arrangement was they would bring food for Baba and then there. So he hit his wife because she wasn't getting it done on time. Is that consistent?
That's actually a little bit later.
That's later.
But on this first occasion, Kumar said, well, I could bring you vegetable pulao within an hour. And Baba said, go do it. So he went racing home, and his wife really quickly made up some vegetable pulao, and he came back with enough for 10 people, and there were like 30 people there. And he was, oh my God, what's going to happen? And Baba began dishing out these large portions, and after having served a bunch of them, Kumar looked and the pot was still full. Right? And if 30 people got fed with some left over. So he said this was a miracle. I think it may have been this episode, or it was an episode just like this one, but it may have been this episode later on, where if it was Kumar, said, Baba, I know you do miracles. And he cited this either this or this same thing happened somewhere else. Could be here. And Baba actually gave the explanation. Let's suppose you have a Raj in his palace, and a guest is coming. The Raj has lots of servants, right? And so one of the servants is going to prepare the room where the guest is going to stay, and sees that there are no towels. Does he go ask the Raj about towels? Of course not. He knows, it's common sense. He just gets the towels and puts them in the room. And Baba said, in the same way, I have lots of, unseen servants working for me, and they do all this kind of thing. and I never even know about it. So in the new life, there are probably lots of angels and stuff who are on the scene. Yeah, but then this happened a few days later, what you're talking about, Chris.
Yeah.
We want to tell that story and
Right.
what you remember of it.
It's, let's see. What I remember was that Baba asked for food to be brought in a short amount of time. So Kumar's wife was preparing the rice, and he kept saying, hurry, hurry, I have to get it there by this time. She said, it has to cook, you can't get the rice has to be cooked and all that. So he keeps on her about it, and finally he gets so upset he gives her a good slap. So then finally he takes the food and takes it to Baba, and the other ones are there, and puts it down there, and Baba doesn't touch it. And then he starts to inquire about his wife cooking the food and all that, and were you in a hurry? Yes, we're in a hurry to try to get it. And he gets it out of him. Were you upset with her and all that? And then what did you do? And then he admits that he slapped her. And then Baba says, I won't touch this food. I won't eat this food. And then the whole thing goes back and forth with him. He finally did accept the food with a promise that he would never strike his wife again, ever.
And he had never done so before either. It was the first time he had ever done that. And actually when Baba was saying to him, prying this story out of him, he kind of was feeling, what business is this of Baba's? This is a family affair. So Baba was sort of getting this revolutionary to buy into the idea of obedience. Yeah, actually the thing that had led to this was that she had sent the meal one day, and Baba's meal had been left out. So when he went back, he slapped her for that reason. And he said, when you get home, ask forgiveness from your wife. And Kumar did. And Baba asked forgiveness from her also for having been the occasion of all this. So we have all this dramatic stuff where Kumar is starting to get drawn into the picture. In fact, before Baba came, Kaikabad was going to was going to stay there at the place in Manjri Mafi for the month prior to Baba's getting there. Because Kaikabad was not the one to go on, the gypsy life and stuff like that. And I think Baba insisted, was it with Keki or one of these people, that his food should be provided, and he gave 500 rupees for that. And Kumar said, I'm happy to provide the food, I don't need the 500 rupees. I think it might have been Keki Nalwal, and Keki Nalwal said, no, that Baba insists on paying 500 rupees, and Kumar said, well, I don't know who this Baba is, but okay, if he insists on it, I'll take it. So he was getting brought into Baba's orbit over this whole period. Anybody remember the stories involving Todi Singh? Todi Singh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he had a dream.
You might.
Yeah. Todi Singh had a dream that he was supposed to prepare food for Baba, and so he went to find Baba in the new life, and then he found Keki Desai.
Or it might have been Kishan Singh. I think it might have been Kishan Singh up in Delhi or somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm not clear about who he found.
Yeah.
But he said he had to see Baba, and they said Baba can't be seen. And he was begging to see Baba. And then
Keki Desai sent him to Keki Nalawala, who was saying all of this.
And then there were no food arrangements made for Manjri Mafi.
Yeah.
And so then it was one of the Kekis who knew about Todi Singh's request, but he didn't say anything. Baba asked him.
Keki Nalawala, yeah.
And Baba asked him, "What are you thinking?" And he said, "I can't tell you because it would break your promise." And he said, "But I've asked you directly, so you have to tell me." And so then he told him about Todi Singh, and then he went and got Todi Singh, who then did the cooking.
Yeah. Todi Singh had brought 2 large tins of ghee for Baba. So, and Todi Singh was absolutely insisting. He had some dream, the dream where Baba said, "Feed me," something like that. He had just met Baba at the end of 1948. Not met Baba, saw Baba. He came to, why would at the end of 48? Anyway, he saw Baba from a distance and was overpowered. So he was a very new contact. And so this whole thing happened at the train station when Baba arrived at Dehradun the very first time. Keki Desai was there, Keki Nalawala, Kumar had been brought in, and Baba ferreted this out because Keki Nalawala was trying to obey his order not to let anyone know about Baba. And suddenly the night before, this guy shows up with, these big tins of ghee and is telling about this dream he had. What's he supposed to do? I mean, it sure sounds authentic, like a real story was happening, but he had the order from Baba. So Keki somehow spent the night there and was called in, and then Baba said, "Can you feed me for the next 10 days? And Todi Singh was overjoyed and said, "Oh yes." And Todi Singh was a big shot. He was the sole supplier of cream for what's called Kevinters. I haven't heard of it. Have you guys heard of Kevinters by any chance? It was a big company, I think from Sweden originally. It might have been the leading supplier of like butter and ghee and things like that in India. It was one of the biggest. And he was Todi Singh was the sole supplier of cream for this. He was from Allahabad, which was not too far from there. So Todi Singh was a wealthy man, a very big businessman. So Todi Singh went back home, and with his whole family, they came to Baba in Dehradun. Baba hadn't moved to Manjri Mafi yet. The house wasn't completely finished. They were staying not far from there. And they showed up, and we're talking about a rich and powerful family, right? And the whole family came, and they lived in the kitchen and just cooked and got food and made food preparations full time.
Was
Sort
he
of like, yeah.
Did he have chef experience of any sort?
I don't know.
Start cooking for that many people.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe a family like that would.
Yeah.
I think his wife did a lot of the cooking, and he would go and buy the vegetables. He would spend several hours. And, in their gypsy phase of travel up to Dehradun, the pickings had been slim a lot of the time, and they certainly hadn't had vegetables, stuff like that. So all of a sudden, this rich food was being prepared for them every day. So, in fact, Mani said they were starting to hanker for just simple food by the time this 10 days was over. So here's another guy And he, when they started the ghee business, he was the key to their doing that. He knew how to do it, and he was able to help them with some of the tools they needed for making it and food supply. So Todi Singh became a big player. My memory is that after this, he opened up a free food, whatever you'd call it, supplier. Do you remember this, Chris, at all?
Yeah, vaguely, yeah, he did after that.
Yeah.
Free kitchen
A free kitchen.
for the poor.
And I think he kind of went through all his money and wound up poor at the end of his life. And whenever you asked him anything, he would say Baba Johnny, which means Baba knows. That was his character phrase. And when he met Baba, he bowed down at Baba's feet, and he sort of persisted. He did this during that time that they were cooking food, and he was rather unusual in that Baba allowed this from him, whereas he didn't from anybody else. So here's another big player who comes into the story. So these two Kekis were in it. Todi Singh, I've never seen a photo of Todi Singh. Kishan Singh was another, by the way, Keki Desai had a apartment in Delhi, and when they moved down there in May to start up the ghee business, they did it in his apartment. I mean, it's like, holy smokes. I think his wife moved out for a while. I mean, it was unlivable.
Yeah.
The month of May is bad enough without having a big ghee operation going on. But Kishan Singh was also, I think he was a lawyer in Delhi, and Lakshman, who I mentioned earlier, the father of Inder Singh was another. So these were some of the people who really came into play in Delhi and had a lot to do with the whole, and North India, Dehradun. So after about 2 weeks in Dehradun, Baba started up a whole routine there, but then he formulated the 3 plans, and this became a big feature of the new life. So, and actually I have it right in here, 3 plans. So let's try to figure out what these 3 plans are about, because they sort of dominated a lot of the new life. So here they are. Actually, Ken and Barbara Ripstad came up with a little schematization of them. There's plan 1A, the collective plan, 1B, the collective or individual plan, and 1C, individual plan. And then there's plan 2 and plan 3. And so these kind of dominated the picture of the new life for 4, 5, 6 months. So 1A is what Baba would have preferred. Now here's a big question for everybody. Why did Baba do this? And later on, Baba indicated that he did this as a concession to the companions because they were not able to live the new life as he wanted. Why did these plans speak to that? So that's something I'd like to bring up and see if anyone has any ideas of it. And after a few months then, Baba canceled them. So here's another thing Baba started up and then ended. But they all had to pick which one of these options they wanted. So in a nutshell, 1A, the collective plan, would go into operation if everyone did it, all of them. And Baba would give 10,000 rupees, 2 tongas, horses, carts, and bullocks as a basis for developing his plan. And they were supposed to start some kind of work. So this was a labor phase plan. And they could do farming, or they could start a business, or whatever they chose. If everyone didn't agree to this, the option was there for 1B, which was the same thing but on a more limited scale. I think just about all the conditions are the same. And in this case, Baba was giving 5,000 rupees and so forth, less money, but they would start some kind of a work enterprise where they could earn money. And 1C was for people, this could be done collectively or it could be done individually. This 1B, you could start a business of your own as an individual enterprise, or you could do it with several others. And 1C was the plan for people who wanted to go to their home places and live the new life there. So in the case of 1C, they were going to be leaving Baba's, operation and expect never to see him again. So that was a big, big deal. They were going to be in the new life, but separately, away from Baba. And plan 2, but they would still retain their connection with Baba. Plan 2, we'll read through some of these conditions, but would be for people who are living the new life completely independently of Baba. The connection with Baba was broken altogether, except they would still be living the new life. And plan 3 was for people who wanted to continue to follow the original conditions of the new life. It emerged that all of these were basically labor phase plans. And this was not that. People in Plan C were not going to start up their own independent business, but the begging, gypsy, and Lingoti life still continued to be pertinent to them. Do you get a broad, well, let's read through some of the conditions. Would you get a picture of the condition of these 3 plans? Do you follow the plans? Yeah.
Nice to have a printout of this, because
Yeah.
it's so hard to, if you're just trying to think it from reading it, to
Yeah.
see it all like this is really nice.
Yeah. No, the Rickstads created this, and they have, see, it goes on for a bunch of pages. And he shows how all of them relate to each other. It is. But it's quite confusing, and they spent several days discussing it. And Ghani, Adi, Anajakal, and Babadas all opted for 1C. And on January 25th, they left. So it looked like that was the end of their association with Baba. It turned out they did, Adi wound up going back to Kushra quarters in Ahmednagar and did a lot for the new life. He took charge of the circulars, and later on he did various things, a lot of things.
Also, wasn't the part of that 1C was that they were to earn and send back
money
to help support the thing.
Yeah, that's right.
How he did that, he sent money.
He sent 1,000 rupees after a month or so. I think he started some kind of insurance business or something like that. And Baba Das actually sent Baba some money also. Ghani went back to Pune. Oh, let me mention this, since the Song of the New Life came up yesterday. In in this project we're doing for an edition of source materials for the New Life, I went through a whole mountain of correspondence, and there are letters signed by Erich in 1950, April or May or something like that, to Adi, asking about certain lines in the New Life song, in the Urdu or Hindustani part of it, asking whether certain words were correct or not. And it seems to me it must have been Baba who asked those questions, because I can't think of anyone in the New Life still who would have known Urdu that well. I mean, certainly Pendu and Baijul would have been. Erich didn't really know it either. So I think Baba must have looked at certain words in the New Life song and wondered if they were right. And Adi went to Gandhi at the next opportunity, and Gandhi said, no, they're not right. So actually, when we do come up with a critically edited text of the Song of the New Life, it won't be exactly what you got yesterday. We're going to make those corrections, because apparently...
Would that also change the English translation?
I guess I'm not totally sure. The English is kind of impressionistic anyway, so it might not make a difference.
Yeah.
When we do that, we'll have to look at that though. Yeah.
There's that new pamphlet with the Song of the New Life.
Yeah. I'll have to see whether it alters it.
Because Baba said when he sent that to the arrangement wall, he says, don't change any
Don't
of the
change
words
a word, yeah.
of the English or the vernacular.
Yeah, that's right. But then apparently, I mean, I'm just guessing that Baba must be behind this. I can't imagine that Erich would ever send such a letter on his own.
Wouldn't have taken the initiative.
Huh?
Would not have taken that initiative.
No. And he wouldn't have known the language well enough either. Erich knew Gujarati, and they all kind of knew Hindi, but not this kind of high poetic language. I think Gandhi was really the only one who would have been able to do that. And Gandhi confirmed it. He said, yeah, those words are
So
wrong.
Gandhi originally wrote it, and now he's saying it's not correct, so how does that work?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Baba called his attention to some word that, the words were closely related to what was there, but there are slightly different forms of the words, something like that. And it was interesting, it'd be nice to get someone who really knows Urdu to go over that. We can maybe puzzle up what was going on. So Gandhi came into the picture there. But for a whole year or more, he didn't have any connection, I don't think.
Yeah, I would think if you guys in your editing, I would not change the English. I don't think, even though there is a different thing, but.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what it is. The English is so loose and interpretive that it probably won't make any difference anyway.
Yeah.
But it does show, if this is from Baba, again, it must have been from Baba. The Baba could be really particular when he wanted to be.
And how did this come up again? Because of Gandhi that...
Well, I was going through all the correspondence,
Yeah.
and I saw these letters from Erich to Gandhi on this very subject. And whoa, what is this? It was 6 months after it originally was published. Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine the song was being sung, and Baba, I don't know, I'm imagining Baba sort of, this doesn't sound quite right. I gathered that Baba's Urdu was really good. He had a highly cultivated appreciation of Urdu poetry. Or Hindustani, it's sort of like a mix of Hindi and Urdu, the Song of the New Life. So anyway, there's an interesting little tidbit on that. So those four guys left, and it was a very sad moment when they departed. Gandhi did see Baba again. There was that meeting on October 16, 1950, where Baba stepped out of the New Life, so he was there. And then in January, as we'll see, Baba sent him this really goofy poem, inviting him to come and spend a week with him. we'll read it in time, it's quite funny. And then in June of 1951, there was that meeting in Hyderabad, and Gandhi was there at that, and 2 months later he died, actually. So he was near the end of his life at this point. You know, he had been having heart trouble. Oh yes, and there was this episode in Dehradun involving Kaka. Any of you remember that episode where he wandered off for a day? Anyone want to tell that story? You know Kakabaria?
But I don't remember why I'm wandering off for a day.
In Dehradun, he was feeling that he just couldn't do the new life. Kakabaria, of all people. I mean, he looks like an absolute, stalwart in the whole thing. And so he's there in Dehradun, so he thought he would just take off, go to some ashram in Rishikesh that gave food and get his food there, and who cares what happens to him after that. So he took off, and somebody accompanied him part of the way, and he just wandered for hours and hours, and then he stopped and thought, no, this isn't right. I shouldn't be doing this. And he had gone in a big circle, and he was right back where he started. And when he went to Baba and told Baba about it, Baba said, "You fool, you can't leave." And Baba told him, "You have a lot of life left yet. You're not going to die yet." So even Kakabaria tried to leave. This is one of the really essential people in the whole story. These are some of the conditions. Let's see. Okay.
So those were only men's names, it wasn't the women.
No, there was never that. The women weren't being held to the conditions in quite the same way, or the question wouldn't come up with them. And a few months later, when Baba dissolved these 3 plans and came up with a new plan, method 1 was the servant companions were to serve the women. I think they had a certain fund, and some of them got paid. I think Erich got 50 rupees a month, and somebody else got 50 rupees a month. But there Baba said, "Who are going to be with me throughout the new life." So they don't seem to have been in jeopardy in the same way with being hurled out for disobeying the conditions. And when this came up, Baba apprised them of it, but they didn't have to choose the plans or anything. So it was sort of a different story for them. So let's read a bunch of these, because this is Plan 1A, and I didn't mention that Ghani and the others left, but Donkin then, toward the end of their discussion, offered to start a Plan 1B. And what that would be is starting some kind of work or business. 1B is the same as 1A, except 1A would happen only if everyone opted for it. But 1B was essentially the same thing on a limited scale. So he offered to start a clinic, medical clinic. And Kaka and Gustaji wound up getting put in that plan because both of them were Kaka was in bad health at the time, and Gustaji was an old man and not doing so well either. So they were put in the plan, even though they weren't really doing any work for it. It was really Donkin. So they wound up getting a office, renting a property where he could have his clinic. And I think he might himself have gone back to Nagar to get some of his, medical instruments. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if they chose or Baba just directed them to say, you should do this. I wonder.
Donkin said that he offered because he thought Baba wanted it. Baba wanted someone to do this
And to earn some money.
and earn some money, yeah.
But what about Gustaji and Kaka? I wonder if they were just told to do that,
I get that impression.
that they didn't choose on their, themselves.
Yeah, so that Duncan wouldn't be all alone in it, maybe. But Duncan was responsible for feeding them and giving them a place to sleep and everything.
And taking care of them medically.
And taking care of them medically, yeah, that's right. Actually, that might have been part
That's
of
the
it.
main one, right?
Yeah. Because he was a doctor and he could take care of their health, which was not so great right then. So he had this office in Dehradun, so it's not the same as where Baba was, and it's away from Manjri Mafi, not that far. And he, over the next couple months in Dehradun, he wasn't getting many patients, and he was concerned about that because he was supposed to be earning money to pay for his rent and to contribute to Baba. But every time that he met with Baba, Baba said, "Don't worry about it." So there's this letter, it's in the book somewhere, where Duncan writes to Elizabeth and he says, "I don't know if this is just a huge waste of money or what it is." Remember that letter? Anyone remember just where that letter is? It's a great letter. Where Baba says, it's a mystery and a mystery and a mystery. None of us can make head nor tails of this new life. And he mentions about his clinic. So this ran for about 2.5 or 3 months. See, it's another thing. If you're going to start a medical practice, I've not done it, but I would think it might take a couple months.
Couple of years.
A couple of years, yeah. Right. Before your I'm sure Duncan would have had a stellar, in fact, he had some very successful cases,
Page 374.
Could you read that out? Yeah, get the mic, yeah.
Just the day before seeing Baba at Manjri Mafi, Duncan wrote a revealing letter to Elizabeth Patterson at Baba's center in Myrtle Beach. In an excerpt from his communication, he said, "As far as Baba's new life goes, not one of us can make head or tail of it. Even the third plan people, now with Baba, do not expect to be there long."
That would be this plan.
The 8.
Yeah, this is the original new life conditions.
They do not expect to be there long, and Baba has openly told them that he does not want them with him. It is all a mystery, and again a mystery, and very difficult both for those who are with Baba and for those away from him. I went into Plan B, taking a temporary job, since that is what I felt Baba wanted me to do. But whether it is a frightful waste of money, I really don't know. Also, I don't know, as you can realize, how long Baba will let me keep at it, practicing medicine in Dehradun, whether for a month, a year, or a lifetime. As far as Baba himself goes, he is as adorable as ever.
So Barbara Jo, if you feel yourself mystified by the new life sometimes, you're in good company. Because Duncan was also. And Duncan is saying they're all mystified by it.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't know what this was all about. So these were the ones who stayed in. This is the original new life. Nilu, Pendu, Baijul, Erich, Murli, Vishnu, Sadashev Patel, and Ali Akbar, Alabar. Actually, Sadashev Patel, very soon after this, was sent back by Baba for 2 months to Pune to work out these legal tangles involving his 2 houses, because they still hadn't been transferred successfully, and the arrangement wallet had forwarded 40,000 rupees and needed to get reimbursed. So he wound up not being there either. But these are the conditions. And so a question I would ask is, let's see, how does this arrangement represent a response to Baba's dissatisfaction with how the new life was being led? What's the point of it? What was Baba thinking? So we can have, Linda will tell us what the avatar of the age is thinking.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Someone want to read, I know this is all this detailed stuff, but I mean, this is really right at the center of what's going on here. Someone want to read out some of this? Anybody?
I'll keep reading.
Mm-hmm.
Plan 1A, collective. In this collective plan, all of you must cooperate with each other, help each other, and adjust things suitably to the ability, capacity, and tabiat of each of you.
Tabiat is like your character or habits.
Each of you doing his best to keep this plan going. I will place at your disposal 10,000 rupees, 2 tongas, horses, carts, and bullocks for your use to belong to this new plan, making it the basis of developing the new plan. You can either do farming or take jobs or do any business in Dehradun or nearby surrounding places. You can put up at the property or in Dehradun or at any place convenient for the carrying out of the plan. The companion's earnings from jobs, farming, or business should belong collectively to this new plan. Out of this collective money, you can all eat what you like, dress as you like, but personally own nothing.
So notice they're being given a certain latitude. They can eat what they like. You know, food was kind of a tense issue before that. So Baba seems to be giving them freedom in certain aspects.
No begging or gypsy or Langodi life for you all in this plan, number 1A. I will live on the property when in Dehradun and Hardawar and do begging, etc. But you can, if you afford, give me and the women food from your earnings and also pay towards incidental expenses. You can sleep when you like, get up when you like, and work as you like. And I will not interfere with your life, nor will I allow you to interfere with my life.
Now this looks like a change, does it not? Remember how Gandhi had said, this new life consists in doing routine things at odd times, and then he gives the example, getting up at 5 o'clock for a cup of tea when we don't have anything to do at that time of day. Well, now they can get up whenever they wanted.
There will be no orders from me except the fixed conditions. Drawing the main essence from the original conditions, I will finally fix the conditions to suit these 3 plans and my own plan. I will have absolutely nothing to do with money or accounts. None should bring complaints to me about anything. Everything to be managed by the companions in any way they like, by committee, majority, or appointing manager. I will fix the conditions for you finally, and then leave it to you to carry them out or not. I will trust you with the conditions, and whether you follow them or not is your own responsibility, for which I will neither do insult or blame or inquire. He who does not follow the conditions will not be in the new life, even though he stays with the companions.
So how is this a change?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see
Well,
it.
they don't follow the conditions before they got kicked out.
Right. And Baba had an eagle's eye on them all the time. But Baba's saying, I'm not responsible anymore. Yeah.
In companions' spare time, they may gather for light talks with me or ask me to take part in any entertainment like music program, etc.
So they have Baba's company. That's not ended. Even though he's not in the plan.
The companions will be free to live and work as they like, within the limits of the fixed conditions, and can even stay on at the place in my absence, as I am free to do as I like and go where I like for my 3 phases.
What are his 3 phases?
Was that the begging,
Right.
Langoti and Gypsy?
So Baba's gonna go on doing those things, whereas they're not. That's over for them.
I will send circulars to all, and have points included in the circular to help the companions in many ways, except in the way of money, beak shop, or presents. For although amongst my companions are such who in the old life have dedicated everything to me, and in the new life would not dream of taking any advantage of others, I want all my old life's disciples and devotees to know that they should not under any circumstances help any one of the new life companions with money, clothing, food, etc.
Right, so he's closing that door. You can't go to the old life people to support you in your way of life.
If companions think it necessary, I will help them, except monetarily, in the beginning to make the start, by asking others to help them, etc.
So this might apply to people like Keki Desai. They're not exactly old life people, but they weren't being counted in that category. I think by old life he means writing back to Adi, or Adi was New Life Companion, or people back in Nagar.
Eric's family, Eric's
Right, the family.
Somebody could,
Yeah, Baba didn't want that. But this group that was up there seemed to be different.
This plan will continue the new life, will keep the companions together, have my interest, give full freedom to me and freedom to the companions. If a companion is found to be deliberately disobeying the conditions or deliberately not carrying out the duties entrusted to him, or is found not to be fitting into the general management because of his temperament or obstinacy, he can be asked to leave the group companionship by majority of votes.
So there's even a process there, a majority of votes. So the group can kick him out.
interesting, this democracy thing comes into it.
It does. So Baba affirms it there. So Plan B is basically the same thing except with a more limited group. Right? And Plan C is the individual plan. Want to go on and read? Anyone else want to read? I'd like to kind of get these on the table before we break for lunch.
Nobody's chomping at the bit.
Okay.
I could probably read it, but I was trying to see if I could see it well.
Yeah.
To lead the new life and its individual's original place.
Here's the mic here.
To lead new life and individual's own original place with all freedom to earn either by job or business, etc. He must not, however, stay either at Meherana or Pimpalgan.
Pimpalgan is Marazai, right?
Yes. To follow the fixed conditions and, I can't read that word.
Iman.
And Iman with them.
The spirit and good faithfulness to it.
To do the duties allotted by Baba while staying at one's own residence, like Sarosh, etc. do. No physical, what's that word?
Sat.
Or proximity of Baba.
Baba's companionship is gone.
I will be free 100%, and companions will be free to do anything within the fixed conditions.
So it's sort of like they're on their own.
I can't see the top. Each one will be given rupees 500. As in the case of no wallas, you will have neither spiritual nor material connection, but you will
Still be.
You will still be the companions of the new life and will have 100%, what's that word?
Samband.
or connection with the new life.
Band is tie and sam is with. Bondage, linking.
You can associate with the old life members also. Out of his earnings, each one will take away the necessary money earned by himself,
Generally.
for himself.
Oh, no, personally.
Personally, by himself personally, for himself and family, and send the remaining to me, for me and those with me. The money sent to me by the companions must strictly be money earned by himself personally, and not money that has been borrowed or begged.
Nor is the companion.
Or is the companion to receive money or gift for help from anyone.
So they can't be used as a channel for someone else to give money to Baba.
The companion should never contact me or correspond with me unless I later order him to do so, but must be sending the money from his earnings according to instructions I had given him before he leaves. He should not try to disturb the arrangements already made before 16th October, or try to interfere with the duties of the
Arrangement
wallas, or try to disturb the orders given to the arrangement wallas regarding money, etc.
Okay, so that's 1C. And I am a little bit puzzled by Plan 2. Anyone could go any place other than the old life place. He can do any place or business or job he likes. No physical sat or proximity with Baba. And what they seem to understand is that the connection with Baba is gone in this. I don't quite get how that pertains to the all these conditions. A lot of these things are the same, but nobody chose this. I think Bhau felt this is a model for people in the future. But Plan 3 is the original plan, and a later circular, Baba had like 34 conditions for it. But let's finish and then have lunch after this. This is the oath for plans 1 and 2 that they were all to swear. Have a reader, if you want, Brian, do you want to read?
Oath for Plan 1 and 2. I, a companion of the new life, take the following oath before God. I will abide 100% by the conditions given today to me by Baba. These conditions are based on the original conditions to which I signed yes. I will consider Baba as my friend and brother and expect no spiritual or material reward. I will see to the material needs of myself till the very end, and if nothing is spiritually or materially gained, I will not hold Baba responsible. Anything that happens to me will be solely my own responsibility before God. There will not be any spiritual or material connection with Baba, but I shall remain 100% a companion of Baba's new life if I follow the conditions 100%.
And so here's a list of conditions. And these are very similar to what we saw before. This is a circular, by the way. So this was sent out to people all over India, these 3 plans. And later, there is a much more conditions. These are conditions for plans 1 and 2. And here he sent out a detailed list of conditions for Plan 3, which is the original. And as you can see, they're very extensive. The 31, 34 has all these sub-clauses like that. So all of this was contained in circulars, and they had printouts and all studied them. Yeah, Don?
I find it really interesting that he's sending all these out to all the people that can't choose to participate in this.
Yeah.
But they should know about it. That's a huge question for me.
You know, these circulars are very odd. Now, he had sent out the second circular, which is a chronicle of the travels from Benares to Dehradun. They'd seen that much. But this is one of the early things they ever heard, people at large ever heard about the New Life. Yeah.
But, and also, Baba, I mean, some of the stuff that went out, Baba approved every single word and did that, but was this was from sources, and then Audie sent it out, there wasn't a back and forth of correcting.
I would bet anything that this was exactly as Baba dictated.
Okay.
Yeah. And later on, a few months in April or May, certain circulars went out in which Adi removed some of the more personal and embarrassing details concerning Sadashev Patel and Gandhi. And there's a sharp letter from Baba saying, "Why did you leave that out? I want you to put it in." So Baba was really keeping an eye on these circulars. I think these were word for word. I bet he went over every little bit of it. Yeah.
Is this exhibit available online? And if so, where?
The New Life circulars are on the Trust website. I've done this from the 1967 publication of it, but there's a reflowed version of it on the Trust website. Yeah. So this will be circular 5, I think it is. Or
But
3.
it was in the handout.
The packet?
And the packet.
Yeah, it's on the packet. Yeah, that's what's on the online
The
packet.
Dropbox, yeah.
Right, so you have it there. Okay, well, I'm thinking maybe after lunch we could sort of brood on this a little bit and try to figure out what was Baba's purpose in doing all of this. Why did he do it? Okay. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.